Welcome everyone to the April 17th Hartland Selectboard meeting. We'll start at 5:35. First item on our agenda is the approval of the April 13th minutes. Make a motion to accept those minutes. So, second. Yeah. Any discussion?
Your number 7. I think you should read Constable style and that you see. Not the you see. If you see, just trying. I'm sorry.
So the word "the" should be replaced with the word "that."
Exactly. Okay. Sorry to the English person. Under tours contract, didn't we take some kind of action with that?
Yes, we did.
This doesn't know that we did.
It needs to be updated and resubmitted is what we have. Yes, we did.
We already did it, so.
Yeah.
Just seeing these other.
Does it need to be modified now? You have a meeting with Correspondence coming up. I'm jumping around.
Yeah,
here.
tomorrow morning. But that has nothing to do with this.
Right.
That's right.
All I'm saying is we ratified that.
Yes, we did.
It's just not stated that we ratified it, there's consensus on it or anything. It sounds like it needs to be updated.
Oh, okay, so
Just say,
it was.
consensus of the board was.
Did you have something?
No.
I'm sorry, we did you, consensus of the board?
Yeah, I mean, you could do that or just play the film back and see who made the motion and.
Whatever.
So we did, I think we all agree.
And I wasn't clear under town manager's update, said Martin said May or the end of June, isn't it May or the end of May or something? I think we're going from May to. 1, 2,
Geez,
3.
there was a question about the data project. No, it said May or the end of June.
There's no question.
At the time, it was, they weren't sure if it was the end of May or the end of June.
Oh, okay.
They said the May or the end, it's May or June. We can take out the end of June if you would prefer.
But we have it on the agenda tonight in the manager's.
Yes, we
should.
Yeah,
So,
And then finally, am I kicking this here? Said that Dave Singer expressed concern for the defense on the east side of the tennis court and wanted to raise this, and I just say raise high with it, just so it's clear.
and on Roman numeral 6, Jim is suggesting that we put the Green Mountain Forest Association events on the website. I'm not sure what we were thinking there.
Well, when they have travel. Yeah,
Okay, the roads were.
I think it is on the website.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so it's.
So do we want to put trail rides after Green Mountain Horse Association?
Advantage.
I think that's appropriate.
Okay.
Any other comments? All in favor, say aye.
Right.
Okay, going on to the orders of the accounts payable through today, April 17th. With a motion to accept them. I move to accept the orders through today. Through today. Thank you, Clyde. Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? Morton, CAI technologies for tax mapping, that's different than CCI.
That's correct, yes.
So this is the same list that you already passed on.
Yeah, so that matches the warrant. The warrant matches the payables, that's correct.
Thank you.
Anything about it? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. It's unanimous. Are there any adjustments to tonight's agenda? Hearing none, I'll move on to public comments. Ariel.
Ariel Arwen. I noticed on the agenda, I think it's called local emergency management plan. Is the L for local? Yeah. So anyway, I just recently watched a PBS short piece that I will forward to the select board members about Panton, Vermont, Green Mountain Power. It's been advertised for a long time. That they have the whole town as a microgrid, which is very resilient, requires lots of big battery backup, which they have, but it's just an interesting model. And back in, I think it was 2019, maybe 2018, we invited Josh Castonguay from Green Mountain Power. He was heavily featured in this documentary to come and met at the library to talk about microgrids in particular. And Carl, for many years, had drawn up a model of how Hartland could work in such a fashion, more or less. So anyway, when I saw it on the agenda, I thought to mention that there's been a little bit of activity in the resilience world in the past through the Energy Committee. And yeah, that's it. What? You want to?
We, as part of that meeting at the library, we also had Clifton Belo from Lebanon Energy Committee come over, and he's been instrumental in forming the, what's it called, the local, the energy grid.
Yeah, the community aggregation.
Pilot projects over in New Hampshire. And so, as Ariel said, we've already done a little bit of resilience work on the energy supply here in town. And we were thinking of a microgrid in the center of the area of the center of town, specifically using some of the solar arrays and also Jay's Dam. And so we've done some work on that already, and we thought we'd mention that as you enter into the LEMP. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Okay, thank you. Are there any other public comments? Susan?
A little bit less, my name is Stacy Bradley, just for the record. A little bit less of public comments. It's actually sort of in the my duties as a lister. And I just wanted to very briefly, I think I mentioned to you in the past, Phil, about some current legislation going on at the state level that has moved from the House into a Senate committee. It's Bill H-480. It has to do with property valuation and appraisal. And essentially what this bill is looking to do, as it is currently proposed, is to take reappraisals from the municipal level and create a whole statewide reappraisal and litigation appeals system. For the record, PVR is not property valuation and review in the tax department, and the tax department are not in support of this bill as it is written currently. Neither is VLCT and neither is VALA, the Vermont Assessors and Listers Association. The biggest reason being because this bill is created to set up a study, but implement at the same time this system of property assessment. And we all feel that the study should come well before any implementation begins. I actually am going up to testify before the Senate committee on Wednesday. It's kind of taken a lot of side effort on many of our listers and assessors, but just to kind of keep you guys in the loop, because one of the main concerns is that essentially it pulls ownership of the grand list away from the municipalities. It gives the state the authority to create the education and municipal grand lists and makes those values binding on the town. And that just kind of really raises some concerns for many of us in the industry, especially since PBR is supposed to be the one to use a three-pronged test to see if your reappraisal is legitimate. So there's also sort of this conflict of interest where basically you're now going to have the same entity that is supposed to test and make sure that these reappraisals and the values are okay, also being the ones overseeing and possibly conducting the reappraisals. So again, that seems to be a conflict. It's basically driven by the high number of triggered reappraisals amongst the towns across the state, as we're all sort of aware of, which is really not anything that the towns have done wrong or listers or assessors have done wrong. It's basically just the market, you know, unprecedented sales prices and how much they've increased in the last few years, and a lack of appraisal contractors out there. There's a waiting list out there right now to 2027 is the soonest anybody looking to get in a reappraisal is, that's the soonest you're going to be able to look at even being able to begin to start. And as you guys know, we were triggered and we're in that waiting line right now with about 160 other towns.
Will this impact the methodology associated with the school tax appropriations and the way schools are funded?
They're not looking to change any of the school funding.
Just the appraisal side.
Just the appraisal side. And again, none of us are really sure exactly what is sort of driving this. Initially, the House Committee, Ways and Means Committee was approached with being asked to put a moratorium on the trigger, the CLA trigger that causes the PBR to order a reappraisal if you hit a CLA of under 85% or over 115%. Nobody's over 115%, but many towns are hitting underneath 85% and well below some. So PBR was simply looking at VLCT to have them kind of put a halt on that, as well as put a halt on the mechanism that says if towns do not comply with the reappraisal orders, that PBR can withhold certain state funding that goes to the towns. But PBR is not inclined to do any of that right now. They have not done any of that. They've said they're not going to, simply because towns are doing their best effort at this point in time, but they're well aware that it's just a long, long line to stand in right now. So that's kind of the gist of it right now.
Maybe reach out to our state senators.
I have spoken with John Bartholomew. I actually will see Becca White and Allison Clark are both on the Senate Government Operations Committee that I'm going to be going before on Wednesday. So I will be speaking with them directly. So I just wanted to kind of keep you guys in the loop on that.
So Stacy, what was the house number, the House bill number?
H 480. There are some select boards that have reached out and made contact and written letters of concern to at least one that I know of, Ferrisburg, I believe, to the Senate committee But they've heard from several different parties. Despite that, it charged sort of full steam through the House. This committee within the Senate seems to be listening to all of us and inviting us to come to the table. We've basically been more or less told at this point in time, as of last Wednesday, that this bill is going to pass in some form. What that form looks like is up for, debate and discussion. And they very much have invited us all to come to the table and be a part of figuring that out.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
I have a raised hand.
Based on, Lisa?
I don't know the name. Looks like Kirk Peterson.
Helen.
I'm sorry, it's Helen. Yes, Helen.
Would you like to call it in, please? Helen, are you there?
What am I missing?
There you go.
There it goes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. There's a couple of things I want to say. Number one is there were a number of times during meetings when viewing on Zoom, I tried to access and speak and I was not recognized. This is going back through a couple of meetings because I do try to listen to all the meetings. And thank you for acknowledging it this time. The other thing I want to say is that sometimes when the members of the select board are speaking, it's very hard to understand what you're saying. It's never hard to understand what the members of the public are contributing when they sit at the desk or when the person who's sitting in the town manager seat is speaking. So it might be the mics, the way they're placed, but it's very hard to understand it. And I have excellent hearing. And if the people who do speak at the desk identify themselves, because that one gentleman there did not identify himself, it would be quite helpful to us who cannot be there in person. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Helen. I do agree that I am watching some recent, I know I sometimes mumble, I've been accused of that, but I couldn't understand a word I said. So, okay, thank you. Moving on. Any other public comments? All business, first item are the rules and procedures. A couple of, maybe just a year ago, if not 2 years ago, the select board realized that we had no official document that would be how to be operating the meeting and so on. So we went to the Vermont League of Citizens Town and grabbed an outline of the rules and procedures. We adopted that last year, and every year we've agreed to re-adopt it. So that's what the item is. And I ask for a motion to is that a motion to accept it? So move second. Second. Okay. Any discussion?
Yes, we have open discussion to change the process to determine next meeting's agenda. That was tabled the previous meeting.
Right. I saw that in the minutes. What are you?
So you would have gotten this email that describes what the BLCT language is, what our current language is, and what the proposed language is. No, just one. So, wasn't good one.
Thank you.
So we had this discussion at prior meeting, so we're suggesting that there be more flexibility for board members to add to the agenda.
Jim, how does that last sentence work? If two or more members of the body request that an item be added to the agenda prior to it being warned, it shall be added. Is that flying in the face of the open meeting law?
Agendas can be worked on via email. So, so there were instances in the last, few months, we'll say, where topics had come up for the agenda. There was some support from the body to add things to the agenda, but we didn't get them added. So this would be a more formal process to say if two people strongly feel that something needs to be added to the agenda, prior to it being warned.
And we have to make sure it's warned on Thursdays.
No, Friday.
Weekends, you can't use the weekend. Weekends do not count.
No, you can traditionally, we send out a draft agenda on the Wednesday prior to the meeting,
Correct.
and the final agenda on the Friday prior to the meeting, which is when it's warned.
That's actually done Thursday, as you said.
I think we need 2 days, I think.
I think it's 48.
It says 48 hours prior to
It's
But the
Monday.
weekends don't count, right?
Weekends don't count.
What
You don't
kind of
count the
time-
day of the meeting.
Can you clarify weekends?
Weekends are not considered, you can't use that for warning purpose. For something. Is my understanding.
So it has to be Thursday by 5, it has to be by 5:30 on Thursday. Warned.
But if that's the statute, I'll double check it. But my understanding in prior conversations with David was that he had until Saturday morning to warn it to meet the 48 hours.
I don't know that for sure.
I don't know for sure either. But
But you look into that first.
but either way, whenever the meeting has to legally be warned, it should be warned. Yeah, the motion is really distinct in that it requests that we can add things to the agenda. What's your reservation?
The items that we're referring to that were not placed on the agenda were discussed by the town manager and myself and decided to defer to another meeting. So I don't think anything got lost. I think
In some cases, that's true. In other cases, items were not warned, but there was, significant public discussion during public comments where if the item had been warned, everyone would have been aware that it was going to be discussed. So I'm still not understanding the reservation.
So I have two reservations. One is sometimes these meetings can be very long, and I don't know at the end of the meeting if I want to be trying to decide what we're going to be discussing at the next.
Yeah, but this is not meant to cast in stone. It's just meant to have a discussion. Right? The agenda is still going to get cast a week later and drafted on the Wednesday prior to the next meeting. So we don't have to decide tonight unequivocally what the agenda is. We just have a discussion about it. What would we like to see on it?
So the other thing for me is if we are going to have, like we have additions to the agenda, why don't we state during the meeting a time frame by which we want to take that up, so it's fully public. So for instance, we say, the rules and procedure, this is important, we should have it on the agenda. And the board say, yes, this is important, we should have it on the meeting within 2 business meetings. That way, there's no email traffic going on.
Well, that's fine.
And I understand it. I mean, in the past, I know there's been frustration about things getting on there. I think the board is.
But I think what this is designed to do is 2 things. One is to create a discussion, right? At this meeting of some of the things that we might want to have on the agenda next meeting. The second purpose is for the occasional situation where something comes up after we leave the room tonight and before we go on the agenda, which is occasional, is not, is not random.
Don't you think the town manager would know that something was coming up?
These things have come up and we haven't warned an agenda item. We've deferred it to public comments. And I don't think that's a healthy way to have a discussion. It needs to be warned. People need to understand what's going to be discussed. And I show up. So I'm still, this is meant to be more open, more collaborative, have more input. I'm still struggling with those options.
And I think two select board members emailing for the course of a week amongst themselves is not particularly open, that we should have it in open meeting. And just basically, the policy is we will decide at a time certain, we're gonna take this up. You're not gonna allow someone to defer. Or I think one of the few roles that the chair has is to set the agenda, so we elect the chair. And the chair works with the thing. I think the chair should be responsive to us. I see no reason right now, or I don't see our chair not being responsive to us. I'm more than willing to do that if I thought things weren't working. I think right now, at least a few meetings I've been to, we've been pretty open and people have been responsive.
Any thoughts, Clyde?
So let me ask a slightly different question. By putting this language in here and giving us more input, what harm does it do?
But I think what Tom's pointing out is the first thing I pointed out is that we fall into behind the scenes creating agenda items.
Working on agenda items is not the violation of open meetings.
What could be so critical within 2 weeks that either the chair or the town manager wouldn't be taking that up and presenting it to us?
Sorry, we'll give a hard example. We had, I believe, we had a meeting to warn the discussion on 3 corners. Right? There's been several discussions, right? So several discussions. Right? Citizens had proposed different options to discuss. Instead of warning an agenda item and having an open meeting discussion, I think there were at least 2 meetings where we had a lengthy discussion in public comments that should have been a warned agenda item. And that's, so I'm not trying to overly control this agenda. I'm trying to make sure that we're doing it.
I would just go back and ask you to repeat the first part of what you just said. We had on the agenda multiple times 3 corners intersection, and when we were going
We
to,
had a couple of meetings where we had substantial public input
and it was warned.
during public comments.
No, when I thought, maybe I'm
There's
not.
both. There were both cases.
Yeah.
There was the warned discussion and the unwarned discussion.
Yeah. Do we have a second for the motion?
Well, the motion right now is just to accept the rules of procedure. And I'm suggesting that we amend this section, which we suggested previously. We're missing one of the people that supported this amendment.
Well, I need a process clarification.
So we have a motion on the floor, so let's just do our motion.
Okay,
So we need a second to that.
So you already had a second.
Because we're doing the discussion.
So they're going to be one motion at a time, and the motion made is to adopt it as a procedure.
okay.
Now we're in that discussion.
So if I forget, so it doesn't.
You did.
Who made the motion?
I think,
So,
yeah.
No, I think Tom did.
So I'm
Right, yes, Tom made the motion.
willing to remove my motion, and if want us to just vote your amendment?
All right, so here's what I would suggest. I suggest tabling this to the next meeting, so that all five are present. We can still operate on the rules as they existed as we passed them last year. Which is what we did on the March 20th meeting.
If that's what you would like to do, we're willing to consider.
I'll remove my motion.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
I can resend this an email. This was sent right after that last meeting. Well, no, I'm sorry, right after our March 20th.
And we should just have it back for next episode. We can see.
Yeah, I'll make sure it's there.
Okay, so right now, there's no action on the negotiations of the table. Okay, the next item is the fiscal year 23 budget update. Martin, let's do that, please.
Yes. The revenues, if we go to the, where we're supposed to be at 75% of the budget year to date. Revenues, if we take out the ARPA funds, the taxes that were paid ahead, or not ahead, as it was booked, we're actually 80% for the year. As you can see, the rec is caught up as I expected it would catch up by this month. Through the end of February, no, end of March, I'm sorry, I got the wrong sheet. We are through the end of March, 75% through the budget. Highway budget, the state paid the last quarter in this month. They overpaid $7,100, so the highway budget has an extra $7,100. They started this last year, a little extra grant money is what they paid all the towns.
So we get to keep it.
We get to keep it. Yes, we do. Any questions on the revenues? On the expenses, if you go down through, you'll see that most of the departments are within their budgets. The finance department is over budget. We have a NIMRIC for $5,000 that we haven't had before. The finance department uses most of the modules that NIMRIC has. So we are now going to take that cost and we'll have it in our department from here forward.
What page are you on?
I'm on page 3 of 10. As you go down through, you'll see most of the departments are within their budget. You get to the library, they are over budget year to date. They do have some expenses that are from grants that they got the revenue at the end of the last fiscal year, 2022. If you remove that out, they're actually at 86% year to date. So the budget as a whole is 75%. If we take out our prepays, we're at 72%. So the budget is right on track for the year to date for as far as the general fund. The highway department, we have switched over to on April 5th summer hours. So we are now back using the summer budget on page 1.
Martin, just a suggestion.
Yes.
See each of the reports looks remarkably similar. So I think traditionally, right, kind of expenses at the top.
Okay.
The one revenues on the top of it.
Sure, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm sorry.
No, I mean,
No,
I think that's why I was asking.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that. I will make it a little more clear next time. So at the end of the packet should be the highway department. Fund 20. The last 3 pages is the expenses for the highway department. On page 2, bottom of 2 and 3 is the winter section of the highway budget. As you can see there, it's at 83% for the winter, but there will be no more expenses going into the winter side. The highway department is at 76% year to date. They will end up over budget as we have spoken. But if we take out the prepays, they're at 72%, so they are under budget at this moment in time. On page 1, you'll see the summer labor C3. That's where we will start putting the weekly payroll to from now to the end of the fiscal year. I do have a rather large repair bill coming in on the all-wheel drive six-wheeler. I'm anticipating it to be over $5,000. Part of that is towing it out of the ditch. I haven't got the final tally yet, but we'll have it here fairly soon. Any questions on the budget? And we'll label it better next time.
So you think the software system will do that for you?
You think? It does blend into one.
There's a, under planning commission, there's a part-time pay.
I don't think it's ever been used. I was looking at that. I don't think it's ever been used, and if it has, it's long before my time.
Is that a secretary?
Temporary, I would upset that there's part-time pay.
Hey, ooh, yeah.
I think at one point in time, they used to have a clerk.
A clerk or secretary.
Oh, so Clyde knows the history of that.
Okay, any additional questions for Martin?
End of the year, you come over or under.
So on the general fund side, I'm anticipating at this point, we're gonna about 3% under budget without the ARPA money. That's gonna give us a surplus, obviously. On the highway department, I believe we're gonna be over budget by about $45,000
But under by 3%, you said on
on the general fund, yes.
Do those two offset each other?
It'll be close. It'll be close. The highway fund, the equipment fund is not gonna get the 100, whatever we have budgeted there for, because we're over budget at this point. I'm anticipating about 118,000 to go to the equipment fund. At this point. Yeah,
It was like 127 or something.
yeah, it's what it's been so far, but I think it's gonna be about 115, 118 that we're gonna be able to transfer over, because we're between diesel and maintenance.
You'll talk about that in the
Yes.
manager's update.
Yeah. So yes, Jim, I think we will have a surplus in the general fund and a small deficit in the highway fund.
On the revenue side.
No, on
On
the
the
expense
expense
side, yes.
On the revenue side,
On the revenue side, the highway fund is 7,000 over year to date. And the general fund, I anticipate to be over, it's gonna be over, I don't know, obviously $1 million because of ARPA. I haven't really looked at the other overages that we've had. We will have a shortage in fees because there's not many sales going through the town.
right, so but if you back out ARPA, you think even with delinquent taxes, will hit the.
Yes, I do believe we will hit the revenue number.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, as a member of the cemetery committee, if we could try to work with them to, because there's tree cutting money in there.
Yeah, if they would use that money.
And, well,
Hire a trees force and get them out there.
it at times has been difficult, so maybe if they can reach out to you and we can try to figure out how to go forward with that. Because
Absolutely.
there's great need out there.
Yes, we have one down on Route 5 with the town crew's gonna go there.
Okay, any other questions? Moving on to committee commission reappointments. Martin, who do you have? up?
I have Sarah Bruce here tonight for the Energy Committee.
Sarah Bruce, Energy Committee Chair. And the Energy Committee has two reappointments this year. It's Carl Chemnitzer and Ariel Arwen. And Carl is, I believe I'm correct in saying, he can correct me if I'm wrong, the longest serving Energy Committee member. I believe he's been on it since the committee's inception. Thus, he's also our historian. And he often puts current discussions and issues in the context of past goals and actions of the Energy Committee, and that I find to be particularly valuable. Carl, I think everybody knows, hopefully, is very, very deeply immersed in everything transportation. all aspects of transportation and is therefore extremely knowledgeable in that area. And transportation is one of the two major challenges that Vermont faces in terms of climate mitigation. The two biggest producers of greenhouse gases are transportation and thermal building heating. And actually in Hartland, transportation is even higher than the state average. I think the state average is closer to 40%, Hartland is 50%, presumably because of the very rural area. And the second person up for reappointment tonight is Ariel Arwen, and she has been a member since 2017. I believe that is correct, approximately. And Ariel gets involved in nearly all committee activities, from writing the Enhanced Energy Plan, which was in 2019 when I was first on the committee, and what she did before that, I can't really tell you because I wasn't part of it, right up to the current weatherization campaign, where she hosted our launch meeting and also helped me with the infrared photography. But she's involved in many, many things. And most recently and most notably, she was the Hartland lead for the solarized, the four-town solarized 2022 campaign. And she is now starting to plan monthly energy information tables at the library or somewhere where two or three of us will be there with information on a particular topic each month, or maybe two topics each month, but this would be from May or June through the fall. So I would say both members are very valuable, and I absolutely strongly recommend their reappointment.
Any questions of Sarah or the candidates?
And both, of course, are here. I think you know that, so.
I ask for a motion for the reappointment of Carl and Ariel to the length of the position.
3 years.
3 years. 3 years.
Yes.
3-year terms.
Yes.
I make a motion that we reappoint these two for the 3-year term in the Energy Committee.
Second, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Sarah, while you still have the table, why don't you promote Earth Day? What's going on? Earth Day?
Oh,
Oh, you're
well,
here?
yes, I'm
Everyone's
sorry. I
here?
didn't know this was necessarily the forum, but I hope to see everybody here. And everybody you can tell about it is this Saturday, God willing, no rain until PM in the day, late, at the Red Barn by the library, the 2023 Energy Committee Earth Day EV Rally. And it's really just getting together with other people in town that own electric vehicles of any type, car, truck, full-size F-150 pickup, and e-bikes, and also riding e-mower, and I think probably a push behind, possibly an e-snow blower. I love that idea. I want to see that. We have information for people to take, not too much printed. I got all the QR codes. I finally figured out what a QR code was. So I've got them, people that have some cell phones, like some of us don't, can use those. So there's information, and we do have 2 dealers coming. I think it's only 2. I didn't hear from the third one. And I think what's really important about that is that they are, they're going to tell us what's coming next year. So the Chevy dealer, for instance, right now, they produce bolts. That's it. But they're going to have 4 or 5 additional ones, including a full electric Silverado full-size pickup next year. So I think that hopefully will be very valuable. And for the last 10 days, the forecast has been for showers. But today it moved to PM showers. So I'm hopeful.
What time is it? What time? Yeah.
10 o'clock, 2 o'clock. And there is lunch. We're prepared for a light lunch for 100 people. If people don't get too picky, we'll be okay.
You count me as 3.
Pardon? What time is
You'll have to
lunch?
count me as 3 people.
Well, I don't know. Anyway, and it's great because Mike's is donating sandwiches and individuals and the Three Corners Market.
Three Corners Market.
Is it Three Corners
Mike's,
Market?
You just said.
Never mind, never mind.
No, but both of them are donating some of the sandwiches and individuals, and so I think it'll be a fun day, and that's what we're hoping for. And actually, Carl or Ariel, anything to add particularly about the bikes or?
I will say that it's true. I'm feeling it's sort of like a historical relic of the energy committee.
Oh, listen, I'm more historic than you are, not on the energy committee, but overall.
You have to
so.
stay till you're a fossil.
What you mean
Thank
by
you.
that?
Thank you all for all the hard work you do. Really appreciate it. You're a wonderful asset to the community.
So I would like to add to what Tom was saying, the select board at the town meeting wanted to really recognize that we as a community only exist as a community when all of us are doing work. And the passion on the energy committee is very real, and I appreciate that. And thank you for Sarah for your work and Carl for your work. Thank you very much. Okay, going on to.
I got Rob Andrew right here.
Oh.
A synopsis. Rob, if you'd be so kind. Sure. Thank you for coming.
And Rob, I was very careful when we passed the Salamander crossing at 5. It was still a little bit of a.
As soon as it gets dark, they're gonna be running all over the place. So Rob Andrade, I'm the chair of the Conservation Commission. We have 3 members whose terms are expiring this year. Guy Crosby, Tina Barney, and Jennifer Waite. And all 3 have agreed to continue for another term. Our terms are 4 years. And so, yeah, I'm delighted. They're all 3 indispensable parts of our commission.
Okay. I was a little confused. I thought we
We
were.
need a motion for that, right? You
Yes.
said you were gonna wait till next month, but. you got
Well,
one more.
we have one opening.
Yes.
It's
It's not a
That's next
reappointment,
month.
it's
Yes.
a new appointment.
Great.
We're not ready to make that appointment.
Do we want to do the existing? We do that, we're doing all in one shot.
Why don't we just do the reappointment since we're on the roll?
Right.
Sorry.
Can you restate the names? Yeah, I know you
Yes,
said Guy
so
and
it's Guy Crosby, Jennifer Waite, and Tina Barney.
I make that motion to reappoint those.
That's, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you, Rob. Thank you very much. Gratitude and all.
Of course.
Okay, am I done? with the-
Yes, thank you.
Planning commission, no change?
I didn't hear back from them. I'll reach out to them tomorrow.
Okay. Is there anything we can do to revitalize the cemetery committee?
Supposedly, Mary O'Brien. You were gonna get on board.
Okay, we got that in the notes, right?
Good. Mary O'Brien.
Okay, what about this?
In all seriousness, the cemetery committee is in desperate need of volunteers. So if you could contact Martin, if you're interested, that would be a great help to the committee.
How many cemeteries are
Oh,
in the
goodness.
town?
How many? 6?
No.
I think there are 13 that the town controls and then 2 private.
Sounds right.
Yeah, and I'll certainly give a plug for the committee and their volunteer day. I learned more about the town in just a few hours talking about the history of.
I'm curious, looking at viewing versus working.
Yeah.
I believe the clerk's office has a map of Hartland and also has all the cemeteries listed on it if anyone wants to visit them.
Yes.
But there are people that would like to be interred right now, we're at a stalemate being able to do that.
Why
So
is
we need to
that?
have some regulations and the like, and also decide which areas would be appropriate for internment.
In these 13.
Yes, yeah. Some of them are family plots and they can't put a family member in.
Oh.
So we really need volunteers with some energy to help us move all this forward.
Moving on,
Just a quick question, the cemetery committee call for volunteers, is that something that can go on the website? It's not already there?
I will make sure it's put on there.
Not this one.
yes.
This may not be the right time, but maybe I could be referred to another committee, the cemetery committee meeting. But is the cemetery committee thinking at all about spaces for green burials? I know there are spaces in the main cemetery next to the brick church. Is that the only one?
I think Mary O'Brien has also brought that up.
She's
So
certainly working
I don't know.
I think
that-
that's very important,
Yeah,
very important.
Okay, I'm struggling to get to the Constable radios. Are we ready to?
Yeah.
Okay,
So, I got hold of R&R Communications, they quoted a radio at about $1,800 less than, Motorola. I reached out to Motorola people, they said they would bill us in two separate fiscal years. They had no issues doing that. So we'd like to move forward and order the radio from the Motorola.
Constable, is there any additional comments you'd like to make on you talked about what the radio was and why we needed it at the last meeting? Was there any additional thoughts?
No, other than I got an email from Vermont State Police Lieutenant today. They have put their transition on hold for approximately 4 weeks. So that gives us a little bit more time.
Yeah. And they said it would take at least 2 months to get this one.
Okay.
What's, just out of curiosity, what's the transition date now?
The transition date was the 26th of this month. They're bumping it out 4 weeks, so they're running into some problems on their end.
So it's just so you could do some nefarious little thing on the side and the state police wouldn't know about it? And the constable wouldn't know about it?
I had some
Go, sir.
conversation with Martha Morse from dispatch, and she concurs with what the constable says, that there are some technical delays, and hopefully they'll be able to meet the new deadline. But there will be delays.
That's a different question, James. If you got this today, it's operational, you could use it today, you don't have to wait till the other one, right?
Yes, I'd be able to use it today. The digital frequency would not be active yet.
All right, so you use it in analog mode until digital. is there. Then I make a motion that we accept the bid for Motorola radio and authorize the town manager to make the purchase.
Is there a second?
second. I just wanted, would you mind adding the amount? Just for the record, the amount.
For an amount of $14,501.96.
Can you say the amount again?
$14,501.96.
Thank you.
Is there a second?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Except, and you'll do.
They said they'll do
figures, something.
Yeah, so on the May 3rd payables, you'll see the first installment. And then you'll see the next installment in July, the first meeting in July.
Okay. Good. Okay, great segue into policing in Hartland.
Local emergency claims first.
I thought we were all right.
Yeah, no, it's under the other business.
Oh, police, I'm sorry, I'm ahead of myself, sorry.
Okay, let me start with some updates and then I look forward to starting a discussion tonight. And what I hope we can do is create an outline for how to go forward on July 1st, as well as to have create a committee as well as a townwide discussion. Last week, with Judge Singer, I had an opportunity to meet with the Windsor County Sheriff and an assistant. And it was an unofficial discussion of what changes the current sheriff is trying to bring to the organization. They talked a lot about trying to change the culture, upgrade the equipment, and address issues that have come up in the past. So I thought all in all, it was a very positive discussion. Again, there was no talk about contracts or anything like that. Judge, would you add anything?
No, I would say that it was rather participatory. The other person there, by the way, was the guy that handles most of the internal work, Lieutenant Batista. But I think again, and I want to repeat, correct me if I'm wrong, that the culture of the department needs to change, not only in this county, but at the statewide level. We need to be more responsive police departments. And part of that is to create a committee after our committee, composed of a select person from each of the various towns, so that can be updated. I like the idea of having a mental health worker there. We know what's going on in the country, so a mental health worker is an important piece of that. And to get input from the towns. And one of you will probably be on that statewide committee, not the countywide committee.
Yeah, I think.
No matter what the department is, by the way.
Yeah, I think you're highlighting that there was a two-way discussion, that they were listening. The idea of the advisory committee came from us, and they were ready to embrace that. Today, Martin and I met with Lieutenant O'Donnell from the Vermont State Police. He is our representative liaison for a number of both coverage as well as things about Martin. I don't think there's anything new there. We know that the state police have been unable to meet the contract hours that we have with them today. The lieutenant didn't expect that to change.
No, we did not.
I think there were just pressures on both getting personnel as well as continued pressures from Montpelier to change the practice away from rural policing to more in-depth and statewide issues. We had a very open discussion on other policing options. And we can talk about that in general. I think one of the things that the lieutenant had said today just reinforced what we really need to do, which we've been talking about. We need to do two things. One, I think we have to commit to a July 1st contract. And I think there are some creative ways we can do that without boxing in for a whole year. And second, we need to decide what's important to Hartland from a safety, policing, and things associated with that. The lieutenant basically said that there are some towns in our area that are going through a bit of upheaval right now within their own police forces. And this, as a liaison to those discussions, he's realizing that there's no agreement in town of what the safety issues are, and then a priority of those issues. So as a select board, I really feel that that's needs to be our discussion and our challenge. We talked a little bit, and I've made some suggestions that I feel we should create a committee, and we can banter about what that looks like. But a committee of a few select board members and townsfolk. And then Two Rivers has agreed that they would facilitate a town-wide meeting at some point, once the committee has kind of shepherded through a couple of the items to create a potential list of what we mean by safety and security in policing. So I'm going to pause for a moment and just ask for others to react, and then we'll come back to the July 1st piece.
You mentioned commit to a July 1st contract, that's with VSP or with some body?
I was vague.
Okay, you were clear to that.
If you would like the answer.
No, I was just curious, it's just, okay.
May I
Did you have something?
Yeah, I think I got two things. One, to feed off what Tom said. If there's an opportunity to renew the Vermont State Police contract, I think we should do it.
Okay.
Right.
Out of the bag. That was offered today.
Yeah. If we don't, we'll never get a chance to have it again. It'll be gone forever.
Well, we talked about that as well.
Yeah, so if we renew it, they don't use all the hours, we'll have money left over to invest in something else.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I just would hate to lose it. Right? Until we're ready to make a significant change. Now, in terms of the committee, which was your question, I think. I would support a committee. I think a committee is fine. My 2 cents will just be that the committee process takes longer, right? So you can do it that way, right? Or maybe you get the same input from just doing a public hearing, right? Which would be faster and allow you to consolidate your input in a quicker time frame and be able to make a move maybe by July 1st.
Yeah. Okay.
So, or maybe we need a short-term interim measure as well, where we seek additional support, whether or not we can coordinate that with the Vermont State Police. The other thing is I would be very interested in knowing is what's important for Hartland for policing. And I hate to admit this, I'm not sure what is it? I mean, I'd love to have someone to explain to me.
I have what's called an incident report. And I have that much material at home, and I asked the Vermont State Police today to either give it to me electronically and explain the secret codes that are in here. There's juvenile problems, there's inspections of vehicles, there's a fish and wildlife complaint, there's domestic abuse, there's suicide. It's all over the place on that part. Clyde, any comments? Please, I'll ask.
Well, I've been discussing police protection since I've been a legal voter in town.
Yeah.
57 years, or 56, right? I was 21. But we really haven't nailed right now what is necessary, I think the first thing came up was, when it came up originally was about the yahoos on Halloween, decorating the common wild and about that. And I get there is definitely a need to have the availability for some type of law enforcement to show up when called. And that doesn't always happen. James can't answer the call momentarily.
State police, we know, can be required. So we've got to work out something that kind of gels in there.
Right.
We've all heard before that Hartland is physically situated in a great place to do drug deals. We've got Springfield, Windsor to some degree, and White River Junction. And exit 9 is easy to get off, and within a few miles of going this way or that way, you're in a rural back road. So we're not, we are experiencing local issues, speeding issues, as well as pretty serious crimes. You know, I hate to repeat this, but there was a shooting in Three Corners a couple of summers ago. So, and I know. So, please, hear your comments.
Yeah, since there's been complaints about not hearing, we just step
But
in
you
the mic.
know, if I sit up there, we can't hear back here.
They're hearing you just fine.
Okay, Sherry Clark. You know, you are. There was a committee years ago,
Yes.
so if we could start there,
Yeah.
what has changed from their original thoughts of what we need?
I've been trying to get my hand on that report.
Well, this is the problem. There's been a lot of committees that before the public meeting law went in, that has to be put where it's accessible. Some of this stuff isn't, because when I was on the host committee down here, we were looking for foster rental plans, and they were scattered all over the place. So they're probably in the town's manager's office in different file cabinets, but it's not, it'd be a nice starting spot when you said, what do we need? Because we are very demographic, spread all out in all directions, and every section has a different need, maybe at different times. So
How long ago was that report done?
when we initially got the state police involved, I mean, they had a committee, a town committee to discuss this, and they, you know,
Consider the Windsor Police or the state.
yeah, and
police
they
with the-
submitted to the board to contract with the Vermont State Police.
I believe the vote was 106 to 101 when they sent out that questionnaire.
Oh, between the two. Yeah,
Probably do whatever it was, yeah.
But anyway, so it'd be interesting to see what was the need then compared to now, and, you know, and what department would best, you know, when it puts to these different departments, which one could meet our needs the best.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Good. Follow up.
Hey, that comes to the mic.
David Singer, resident of Hartland, 20-year police veteran, and now assistant judge. Guess most people know me. One thing I want to emphasize, police, if there's nothing else, two basic roles, deterrence and enforcement. And by enforcement, I don't mean tickets and arrests. I mean, you know, there's a thing called a written warning. All the people that come the wrong way to go to BG's or whatever the new name is of the post office. And we've had some near misses. I was physically hit by a car. Fortunately, I managed to duck out of the way and only got bruised coming the wrong way. And a little bit of a deterrence there, like a police car sitting there once in a while. It's not going to stop everybody, but some of the roads that we know we have drug production, some of the back roads, police visibility creates deterrence. And we depend on our citizens to let us know what the blank is going on that road, so we can have a deterrent capability. I hate to say it, domestic violence, if you got the, you'll see that there's quite a bit. Having been an instructor at the police academy in several areas, including domestic violence, I can tell you we need to do something about it. You know, we're a great town, but everybody's not nice in town, and people that commit some of these things are not necessarily bad people. But they need some guidance and deterrence. I think what you, maybe having a commission or a committee and have several public meetings to get that feedback might be the answer. I think a two-step process might work a little better. You know, one of the things I see these meetings, I live across the street. I'm concerned at the select board meetings that there isn't better attendance. I really would like to see a little more participatory activity by our citizens. So that's,
Yeah.
I could sit here and talk for an hour, but no, I'll cut it off right
Sure,
now.
thank you, Dan.
Yeah.
Some of you folks know that where my aging department hat as a board member there. We heard a comment during our budget process when Chief Sanders was showing support, verbal support for the appropriation for the additional community nurse extension. But we've been doing some follow-up work on that, and as an example of just one of the other issues that isn't necessarily policing, but it's what's happening in town is that our first responders or EMS crew are showing up for a call, and the person doesn't need transport. They have a mental issue. Generally speaking, they're alone. Kind of the backlash of this aging in place piece is people are now more alone than ever before. So we've been working on a communication protocol so that the first responders call the community nurse, and the community nurse kind of moves in. But there are so many aspects to this that I have a passion for. I mean, I think about the dozen or so social determinants of health and how they've been playing out in all of this in the schools and so on. We're not going to, when we get our list, I think we're going to have a lot of wannas and a few things that we can really afford. So let me jump in interest of time to answer both Jim and
Tom.
Mr. Kennedy. I like the idea also of going with the state police. Lieutenant O'Donnell basically said, Jim, something that you picked up on that I think is very important is our contract is such that we can at any time, what's the word you used? We could put it on hold and then roll in another policing option. And if that didn't work out, we could go back to them. Or we could flat out we don't have to wait till the end of the fiscal year to cancel it. We could cancel it at any time. They're happy, they have other things to do on that part. So I think we should let percolate and decide if we want to investigate. Maybe not on July 1st, maybe July 1st, we just have that contract with the state police. But should we be interested in either another policing option, and only two that I can think of are the county sheriff and the Windsor PD. Maybe we could introduce one of those professional organizations as to use up the rest of our budget for time and give us a trial period while we are working to get a needs assessment and actually what our needs are. So what's your reaction to something like that? And Martin, you heard that, so I know you've been listening as well. So I appreciate your thoughts.
So yes, he was nice. He said we could pause the contract. We could try someone else. We could have both contracts. Another police and the state police, or just the other one. So they were kind enough. He said we could pause it, we could cancel it, but we wouldn't lose it if we put it in pause.
Yeah, if they're not using the hours, you don't even need to do that.
We discussed that too. He said they'll never hit the 80. He said 30 to 40. I said, why don't you compromise at 35? He said he thinks, so during the summer, they're busier, so we get less hours. When they're not in the summer, we might get the full 35 hours in the other months.
So I renew the contract in full, right? Expect that we're not gonna use all the hours, we'll have money left over. And I think you're right, do a 3-month trial. Or something, or a reduced, contract with the sheriff's department to try to figure out how it works and what the service is.
Can I throw one more thing in? I forgot. I'll come up with one. Remember, whatever you do, you never lose. Vermont State Police for BCI, Bureau of Criminal Investigation, Major Crimes Unit, and SWAT. Those are always available if Clyde becomes the constable. I mean, just picked you out because you're looking there. But that's always available to you. I just want you to know that you're not going to lose that. That's in place always.
Right, and we also, not directly our call, we're involved with the school safety officer. So there's another aspect of this that we want to.
But that officer, is there one assigned to us?
Yes,
Yeah. So the Windsor.
Yes. Yes.
And Martin has set up a meeting with Tom Walsh, the town manager for Windsor, for us to open some discussions about things and where we're going in that part. Tom, you've spent a lot of time looking at regional policing and thinking about regional policing. Is there anything that comes to mind right now that we might start thinking about?
Well, the first thing is there would be absolute sticker shock if the town of Windsor thought they were going to have their own police department. It's very, very important. The town of Hartland, that's sticker shock here.
Yes.
And it is difficult for small police departments to attract police officers and pay them what they want to get paid. So to me, the only options we really have is a regional or a multi-town approach to policing. They get better training, they have more equipment. You're finding just tonight, meaning for one radio is $14,000. So I'm an advocate of looking at that. Secondly, I have looked at regional police and been doing this like 15 years. There is no other town in the state of Vermont that has a similar population that has the type of policing that we have in this town. Our policing is woefully inadequate. And I think we're just looking for problems. So we really need to stop procrastinating and do something before somebody gets seriously injured or whatever. Secondly, my last one, I'll be done with my speech. I don't believe we can wait. And I think we should interview whoever we feel we want to interview, have them make a proposal to us and try them out. Whether it's 3 months, 6 months, I don't know what it is, but I know when I was part of that group that was looking at regional policing, one of the things people in town were saying is, I don't want to see a Windsor decal on the side of the car policing us in Hartland. So that's my thing. So I personally think the board, after appropriate discussion and public outreach, should enter into something at the same time we're doing a lot of the public outreach. I think the public outreach and having townwide meetings and doing, prioritization of it's going to take too long. So I think we do the best we can,
So see if I get this right. For next fiscal year, which starts July 1st, we should have a discussion, make a decision, lock something in, right? While the committee and, public hearing process is going on, which may be what feeds into next fiscal year, right? So that sounds logical to me. The question I had though.
Can I just add to that? When we go to a regional policing model, unless we're gonna have really a few hours, we're probably gonna go over budget on that policing item for next year, because we have not taken that
For
into
fiscal
consideration
24.
for fiscal year
If you
'24.
have two contracts, they both.
Yeah, and I don't see us having two contracts for a long period of time.
Yes, but I mean, we do have, like Martin said, we have an option to put one contract on hold and maybe we see if we can get that option on the other contract.
So,
And if worse comes to worse, we do have, some backup cash in the general
Yeah.
reserve.
Yeah.
So I think we can pull it off.
I do too.
The second question I had was, what do other towns our size typically do that we're not doing?
So all over the place.
Yeah.
I mean, Norwich is our size, not our budget, but they've got, they're
So you want to recruit the West Pratt militia?
Weathersfield has no.
Weathersfield has their own police,
And Windsor also does Brownsville.
so they have a contract with Westland.
So maybe just for tonight, I would like to consider asking Martin to explore that contract for the state police, identify what the difference of a 35-hour contract would be to our budget. And we would use that to see if we.
What's our contracted hours per month then?
So he says they bill it out, they do the contract at $77 per hour and $15 for a car.
But how many hours are we?
But it's an interesting thing, just as a fact, to store a rate, we're looking, we're charged what the rate is for that officer. Okay, as opposed to.
So they bill it at the worst case, it's where the Lieutenant O'Donnell comes down. So I believe right now, we're 80 hours a month.
So stick to the 80 hours a month. We know we're not gonna use it. Don't make the contract more complicated than it is now. And then we figure out the next contract with whether it's Windsor or the Sheriff's Department, whatever we think. So right.
But knowing that you're only gonna get 30 to 35 hours.
Yeah, keep the contract as is, we'll manage the usage as we go.
I mean, I do have lots of questions about the sheriff department. I'm very concerned about training. And what tier training goes with what tier officer. So there's just a bunch of unknowns that we need to shake out a little bit.
And I don't know if there's any one out there who could give us sort of police 101 that could come and talk to us about, I don't know what tier 1 versus tier 2 and all this and what we might be looking for. I don't know if the state police would be nice to have some unbiased person.
Yeah, I danced around that with the lieutenant today. I hate to say this in public, but I was twisting his arm a little bit to sort of say, okay, I won't repeat what you're telling me, but can you please? I do think I specifically asked if he could provide a resource to help guide us through some of the discussion, because I agree. I have no background in this, and they say this. So I think I think there's an opportunity there
From the state police.
from the state police. Now, I kind of like, are they going to tell us? I think they would be professional and other, especially since they're pretty much said we're changing the nature of our business. So let's help you kind of as you consider that. Right. But he did say you town has to come up with what you need. That's a unique call to the town where you live.
And yet I'm not trying to preclude you from that discussion either. I mean, you have a great deal of experience.
I was gonna suggest that the academy also could provide, they have the level.
So if you have names or anything that you could help us with and so on, that would be fabulous, because you certainly want to take it.
I want to deal with you folks, though, aside from the fact that we partially fund the sheriff's department, I'm a citizen of this town. I had a shooting on my street, my little street, which greatly concerns me. I'm worried, and I think sooner or later, it's like you said, we can always change it, but let's get
Right.
something in place.
Exactly.
Okay, are we comfortable for tonight? We're going-
Yeah, I mean, I think we have a framework for a plan to move forward. We'll just have to, get some contracts lined up, vote on it, and get the committee to figure it out.
Okay. And once we kind of have those numbers, and I think we can look to see if we want to do the joint contracts or we're complicating our lives too much. So I think we can decide that in the meetings ahead. Okay, I do have a sense of relief that we're ready to at least have coverage on July 1st. I think that's important as stewards of the town. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. And finally, new business.
New business. I jumped again.
I will start. I'm good.
Oh, you're good. Okay.
The new business is the local emergency management plan.
So this is just a yearly update. I made very few changes to it, obviously, as you can see that what I handed in, has a couple of name changes. Dr. Baker obviously is no longer with the school. If you see something that doesn't look correct, please let me know, but I used, the values of Vermont Standard again. I've added Michelle Riley in there. Myself as the acting town manager. So as you go down through it, it's pretty much the same as last year. There's not been that much change to it.
So I think on page 8, you have Christine under the school district office.
That's correct.
Is there an acting principal?
Yes, Lindsay, I mean, this case, yes, Lindsay.
Perkins.
Excuse me?
Is it Perkins? Begins with a P.
Lindsay.
The acting.
So I think that would need to be changed.
Yeah, correct, yes.
And that under the list, page somewhere, so, on page 2, food and catering, we got BG's Market, which is 3 corner shop.
Yeah, these are always changed since they're annual, it's become kind of crazy.
Oh, I thought I changed that, I'm sorry, yeah. So yes, so I'll get that changed.
So I was curious as to why we have no local shelter in town.
So to have a local shelter, it has to have showers and a generator. If it doesn't have showers and a generator, it is not considered a local shelter.
And the Congo Church has those, or because they're an alternate,
That's why it says sometimes.
they sometimes have a shower, or they?
No, sometimes they will let, they might have power, so they might, be able to come in, same thing with Damon Hall.
Rains.
So I think, deja vu. The school has backup power.
I don't believe so. They don't have a shower.
No, they can fix.
Starting with the gym.
I don't believe there's a shower in the school.
The gym.
I don't believe there's a shower in the school. I'm not 100% sure.
The nurse's office have a shower? We did down in Windsor.
I don't know that. I don't think they have a shower in the school.
But not yet. That's all, we can double check.
Yeah,
Not sure that's the most.
Yeah, I'm not worried about for this year, but I just think we should make some effort to have something local for those that maybe have transportation issues. Because part of it is also a cooling shelter
yeah.
and a warming shelter. And, for those of us that, I think I counted, I've been out of power 2 weeks so far this year. We had to go to Hartford.
Yes, that's correct. The Hartford High
That's
School.
crazy.
Well, we did open David Hall.
I get that, but
But it's not the same.
it's not the same. So if we can try to work out something.
Right.
I don't know how strong our Red Cross is in our area. That might be an interesting question for them to say, look at our facilities and what would you need to do to meet the criteria.
Right.
Action, Schomburg, still involved in Red Cross and used to.
Yeah, I think he's retired. Unless he's still on the list. Yeah, did I make a motion to approve?
Approve the
Local emergency management plan.
Is there a second?
Also,
All in favor of approving the local emergency management plan dated April the 11th, 2023, say aye. It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
that just, not a motion, but just a suggestion. It may be worth having a conversation in the school about, situations where you need a warming shelter, a cooling shelter. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, we're a fallback for the school, if they have an emergency, they can see it.
That's correct.
So it seems like there could be some
Yeah.
reciprocal agreement in place.
Okay, Martin, you want to start us on that?
Yeah, so E911 update, John Pullock, our ordinance officer, is here tonight to discuss the 911 changes that are coming down over the next couple of years. So we're looking at this at a 35,000 level, not up close, yes.
Before we go in, I think there are hands raised.
Oh.
Are there?
Go ahead, Stacy, I think that worked.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so going back to, what you guys were just speaking about, I think, I'm pretty sure the school does not have a shower. I would also say that in cases of emergency, particularly in winter storms, again, I think there's no power backup within the school. So I think you're going to find if there's no power in the center of town, you're going to have an issue. Plus the fact that you're going to have difficulty accessing it because, they rely upon the town to clear a lot of the area, maybe not the sidewalks, but to be able to get to it. So, I think you're going to have some real challenges there with that. I think the only building that you have a generator and for is the fire department building next to the highway garage, but unfortunately have a limited, it's a holding tank that has to be pumped out fairly frequently now, and it, even though they have showers, it's not very sustainable for a large number of people.
Thank you, Stacy. Are there any other comments out there? Just not. You see anything?
No, I don't. That was the only thing.
John, I'm sorry to keep you so long.
No, no worries. Let me just hand out a few of these. We'll look at these in just a minute.
Thank you.
So as Martin mentioned, I'm just here to give kind of a high level brief overview, what's going on with E911, what some of the findings have been. And I just wanted to first start off by saying, the previous ordinance administrator, Sean McGranahan, he had a lot of positive changes that came through. Likewise, Stacy Bradley has filled the gap when we have not had an ordinance administrator to, kind of keep us afloat. So this is in, no way a reflection of anything that they've done. Stacy filling in and taking on E911 as a side task to already having a full-time job is quite a substantial amount going on. So I want to be clear, about what, I guess what I'm seeing. To get an idea of our current status, you can take a look at the map, that I just handed out to everybody. You can see a vast majority of the towns in Vermont have adopted a 1,000th mileage standard, so 1,000 addresses per mile of road. We are on the, you can see Hartland classified under Brown as the 1/100th scale, so we are addressing 100 addresses per mile of road. In most cases, 100 addresses is perfectly fine. Many of the back roads serve properties that are spread out far enough to make this workable, and the standard isn't much of an issue. While it's still, technically true, these 100 addresses per mile works for most of town, this interval is starting to show some of its downfalls. Earlier this year, there was some new construction on Route 12. We had to assign an address there. It wasn't as simple as just giving an address. We had to take an address from a house to give it to another house. Less than ideal. Just today, I run into another situation on Advent Hill Road. We have somebody that's starting in on some new construction out there. They've gone through the proper procedures and whatnot, and are looking for an address. It's important, as work starts, that we give this an address and we pin this on the map. So if there's an issue, emergency services know where to go. So this is like the first stop is getting our addressing correct. The situation on Advent Hill, which hasn't been, as I said, an issue for a very long time. It's fairly spread out. But it appears that the addressing going on there may even be before we've adopted the 1/100th standard. I have two houses sequentially numbered on the westward side of Advent Hill, 113 and 115. The neighborhood now has no choice but to accept 114 as their number. Based on the mileage standards, this doesn't compute. They should actually probably be 118. They plan on building a primary residence here as well. We would need to give that a number. There's no room between 113 and 115 to give more numbers. So this is another case of discovering a situation where this old standard is kind of coming around to bite us now. Hartland has had a fair number of subdivisions over the last few years. New private roads will need to be created. Sean did several of these. Barber Lane's a pretty good example. That is one that we would like to, start really diving into. What was once, kind of a small private drive serving a few houses, has turned into a small neighborhood. There are at least 11 houses that are kind of included, in this, depending on how you're looking at it. Per the state's requirements, new roads being created must adopt the 1/1000th mileage standard. So as we get these private drives that now serve 3 houses or more, these should be created as a new named road, private road, and the numbering off of those roads will adopt a new standard. So we have some mixed standards. This leaves us in a situation where there are 2 different numbering intervals being used throughout the town. And this hasn't presented a problem, but I, would assert that this is probably not a best practice. I start to think about programs that are out there like VT Care, the ability to register your property and to allow or give emergency services some forward knowledge of your situation. Maybe you have oxygen at your house and require power. This would be very helpful information for emergency services to know, should we have a massive power outage. So along these lines, this is a voluntary program. People can register for this. This would be a great thing to start making much more available to the community to assist people in setting this kind of stuff up. I would argue that we're getting the horse a bit before the carriage in terms of that. If our addressing is not 100%, we could be registering someone for BT Care and then maybe just registering them again under a new address later. This just seems not as efficient as it could be. At my request on January 25th of this year, I worked with the State of Vermont E911 board to have them kick off the process of a road audit in town. They have a vested interest in keeping the emergency maps up to date. This is where I've obtained this map of Vermont. So they provide this service. I've been in frequent touch with the E911 board, suggestions, questions, plans, that kind of thing. So it's been a little while to get this audit going and to have it finalized. It is still in the works, but I have been told that we should expect that potentially within the next several weeks, hopefully a couple weeks. I hope to be pleasantly surprised and receive it this week, but I'll keep that unofficial. I still don't have this report. I have seen some of the contents, the criteria that's included in this road list that they're creating. And with it, we will have a completely comprehensive understanding of our situation on every back road of Hartland. This would allow us to have a better view of the impact of holding on to this old mileage standard and where we need to focus our efforts to be most efficient. The high level overview was the only kind of goal today. We could get very granular with this discussion and get into the individual circumstances that exist around town and where we're going with this. But I believe that once the state provides the road audit that I've requested, it's a picture's worth 1,000 words. And to put that list in front of you, to have that showing the priority to show the roads that are compliant today versus the roads that are not compliant and the roads that are going to start to become a problem. I think it will prove to be abundantly clear, where we're at and what our potential options could be. At this point, I believe with the further subdivisions, the interest that there's been in moving to Vermont over the last couple of years and Hartland included in that, the more subdivisions we see, the more new construction we see, the more we're going to continue on this. So using the Advent Hill case as an example, if I want to address the house properly today, I'm going to go to their neighbors and I'm going to readdress them first. This just seems highly inefficient. I have a few ideas about raising some awareness to make conversations with the residents a little bit more quickly, to put this information out, to kind of ease tension, explain the scenario. But before getting that far, it, in my opinion, would be in my best interest to bring all of you up to speed, make sure that everybody is in agreement with the message that we want to put out there and the approach that we want to have. So this starts to get out of the realm of responsibility with the ordinance administrator and saying, hey, what should my priority be here? Because we have a little bit of a situation. We could continue to nibble at this and we will probably nibble at it for years. Or we could see what the road audit has to find and put our heads together for some solutions that may prove to be much more efficient.
Great overview.
No, thank you.
I think you highlighted many of the reasons for why we should do it, as well as why we need to do it. I think as just an individual, I'm very aware of, I had a credit card compromised and what drag it is to go around changing my account numbers, never mind changing my physical address in that part. And the select board is aware of what the situation right down the street here with trying to do that. So I think you mentioned creating an analysis of where the hotbeds are. Because I don't know how one would solve the issue. I mean, Hartland's an awful big place to change it all at one time. So I guess I might be asking you to be thinking about just ways.
I have some ideas. I don't know if this is the proper time or not. The road audit may be helpful to get out in front of us first.
Yeah. I'm gonna let my colleagues have reactions and then.
Well, being an old guy, in 1992, when they implemented this, the 911 board was helping towns to pay for this. My understanding nowadays is there is really no funding to help the town's GPS all these renew addresses if we need it. Is that right? We would have to pay for it.
Pay for, what do you mean?
Well,
the
if you
readdress?
go to a different standard, you're gonna have to GPS the houses at the new standard, correct?
Yeah, it's gonna require remeasuring every road, every
right.
house, and finding out what their assigned address should be based on an address every 5 point.
There used to be funding to do that. I don't know, my understanding is there is no funding to do that. It's on the backs of the town.
I'm not positive. You could be right.
I think your idea about a road audit is good. Let's see what the road audit says.
Well, theoretically, if we're at 52.8 feet, it's 100. And you go to 1,000, you just multiply everybody's not the ones that are wrong, but the ones that were done in 92, you do it by a multiple of 10, and I go from 27 to 270. Now, everybody talks about the big change. Well, when we went to 911, nobody had a 911 number, and they got it, and they're alive still. You know, I mean, sometimes we can drag our feet, or we can bring in a bunch of cans and kick them down the road till hell freezes over. You just gotta take the bull by the horns and do it. And I don't care if you just bought checks with this number on it. Checks are not expensive, but if the ambulance doesn't come to your house, what the hell is your life worth? You know, it's just, we push this thing, and I know it all started from somebody not wanting high numbers in the town of Hartland. And it just is ridiculous to wait and wait and wait and wait, you know?
That's why I wanted to open up the discussion.
So that's my humble opinion for what it's worth.
I love the passion.
I will, if I could just add on to that, Clyde. I know I've never lived in a house. I've always lived in apartments. I've had to change my address numerous times. It is doable for sure. It's not, it isn't pleasant, you know, it is a pain.
Yeah.
And just to kind of play devil's advocate to that, you know, I have spoken with, you know, several property owners now who have had their same address for a number of years. You know, and I agree with you. Being able to further guarantee that emergency services could find my house easily over holding onto an old address, it's an easy choice. But I will say that I very quickly understood that this job as ordinance administrator was not going to make me many friends in town. Most people have been fairly understanding, but I think that the idea of approaching this by nibbling at it just means that I am going to individually have the same conversation with nearly every resident eventually. The opportunity for us to do something more in bulk would be to bring everyone together, to have some sort of hearing, to have a Q&A, to have some sort of awareness campaign, to have a dedicated section of our website about why we're doing this, a mailing, all sorts of things where we could address these issues in bulk with everybody. We could give everyone a solid amount of time to vent their frustration, to understand it, what's going on, to answer their questions, and then move forward in a systematic manner, rather than approaching this with, oh, I just found another one and maybe we'll do this one this week. The road audit will prove to be invaluable with that. But overall, I can kind of see how sensitive people are to this, and I'm going to have that sensitive conversation individually hundreds of times, or we could have one big jamboree and just pull the Band-Aid right off. Ultimately, the decision on the mileage standard is yours, and I'm happy to continue nibbling at it. I would be completely transparent and say it is highly inefficient.
Yeah, no, I don't think we are advocating doing that. You know, my comments were, I'd like to understand where those hotbeds are.
Sure.
Because if I understand tackling the town as a whole would be hard to do, but tackling it by region in town, maybe. So whatever options, I'd love to hear those options,
sure,
whether it's the whole thing or not. Jim?
No, I think, I get the discussion. I think seeing the audit would be helpful, figuring out what the high priority roads are would be helpful. Tom's point is good. What's the expense?
Yeah,
To do
no,
this?
I'm very conscious of that.
So
Yeah.
maybe year one, we do high priority roads, and year two, we're off the rest of the
Sarah?
Yeah, so this discussion is very close to home, and you've already had one of the individual discussions. I'm at 115 Advent Hill Road. Yes, indeed, I heard all the noise this morning.
It's the culprit.
It's a beautiful piece of land. I'm very jealous of them, but they were people there talking with people a couple days ago, and I thought, now we're getting started, little markers and everything. So I'm 115. The house was, to modular, it was set in 2014. I moved in 2015. 113 down the hill was built in 2013, 2014. So what you're really saying is that somebody mismeasured the mileage from Center of Town Road where Advent Hill starts. To give 113 and then they gave me 115 and recognize 117 is right behind me and shares my driveway entrance. And the property behind that was sold not too long ago. So, you know, I sort of thought, well, that'll probably be 119. And one of my problems in terms of ambulance finding you, I'm getting to the stage where they might have to find me compared to these other neighbors, is that, so my 115 thing is on my mailbox, but then there's a 117 up on a dead tree. And if we have a 119, and I keep thinking I have to have something at the fort that says 115 is this one and the other ones are over there. So I keep thinking I should come and get another 115, 113, 115, 117 number to put arrows at the point where the two driveways split. But not if you're going to change my number. I'll wait till you after you change the number.
So to answer your question, well, to not answer your question, I would want to have my laptop and mapping in front of me so I could unequivocally say what the situation looks like. When I looked this afternoon to try to estimate approximately where the driveway for the new neighbors is, if I go from 113 up to where the new driveway is, I'm getting almost 200 feet exactly. So your driveway is further beyond that, which based on the standard would mean that you should be.
Yeah, John and Sarah, in the interest of.
Sure.
And it's good insight to what you're saying you're going through, and I appreciate that. John, thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely.
We will be continuing to have you with us.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
And up, 2 minutes.
2 hands up.
Well, did Stacy take her hand out?
I did because I thought you were gonna move on. This is Stacy Bradley.
We did, Stacy.
One thing I just wanted to remind the select board that was brought to my attention when I was on the 911 task is when you're considering what it's going to cost the town to redo the 911 numbering, is that I was reminded that if we as a town are aware that there are problems and things that aren't right and don't match the standards, and there end up being issues, that the town is liable.
Okay, thank you. Is there another hand up?
No, I can't tell. Is there another hand up?
No.
No.
Okay.
No.
Moving on to the acting town manager updates.
All right, fishing, you have an email in your packet from the Vermont Fish and Wildlife. Will be hosting a free bullhead fishing clinic this weekend at Sumner Falls. The highway department has a 2010 GMC 2500 3/4 ton truck and a 2014 GMC 1500 half-ton truck. Neither truck will pass state inspection, and it would take lots of money to bring these trucks to even thinking about passing inspection. I've spoken to Bill and asked him to write an RFP to send out to the local dealerships for a 1-ton pickup truck with a plow and a drop-in sander. The sander would be able to go over the bridges in North Hartland. They could sand the bridges instead of by hand. They would be able to use a sander. The equipment fund, as audited at the end of June of 2022, had $272,366. I expect the transfer over. Well, I was expecting it at 125. After this fix-it bill, I'm expecting 115,000. We are also, this is the year to replace the all-wheel drive 6-wheeler. I'm expecting the 1-ton to come in at about $60,000, and I'm expecting the all-wheel drive at around $200,000. I believe the fund will net out at about $125,000 after these two purchases. So I hope to have an RFP for you in a couple of weeks. So that's coming down the pipeline.
Is the, your research, and I'm hearing you say it's not extensive. Is that the one-ton truck and the plow and the drop in the sander for 60K?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see. Well, I know it's a regular cab, regular standard cab pickup truck with an 8-foot bed, vinyl floor mats. Yeah. So it should be.
I do remember Bill saying that they had trouble getting that vanilla truck the last time.
Yes, yeah.
But anyway, go ahead.
Can you help me with the math though? So you got 272 as of the end of last fiscal year, 275.
Correct.
And then on top of that, you're going to transfer over an additional 125. I'm trying to figure out how we come up with 137.
So the
366.
272, we
Yeah.
add 125.
Okay, then you're adding that.
Yes.
Okay, I get it.
Sunnymead Farm was like, I'm sorry.
So I think at some point, hopefully this is not a false memory, but we saw the equipment on spreadsheet and what we expected to buy in
Yes.
different years. There's a way for us to get a look at that, kind of before and after these purchases.
Yeah, so when I get the bids in, I'll have that ready for you. How's that?
Okay. Yeah, so my concern is, spending 60 now, does it push another planned purchase out longer?
I don't
And
believe
if
so.
so,
I don't believe so, but I will have that research for you. When we,
That's what I was saying.
yeah, absolutely.
Good capital budget.
Absolutely, we try. Sunnymead would like to ditch section of Town Farm from the Hughes Farm to the Sunnymead Sugar House. This washes out each year. Does that make sense, Clyde?
Where's the Hughes?
Yeah, where's that?
That's what Bill told me. He said the old Hughes Farm.
I don't know what that is either.
That's a Palfrey. I mean, you got Kitty Bakers, which no Rutgers, right?
Do you know where the Sugar House is?
Yeah.
So come down,
So it must be the Kitty Baker.
Well,
yes, that name rings about, yes.
what? Kitty Baker's place is a long way from the Sugar House.
Oh, is it,
Why are we allowing a private landowner to do their own kitchen?
So we would, this is why I'm asking this, we're not doing it, I'm asking thoughts on the board of this. So have them do the ditching. They have employees, I will get the insurance, we will oversee the project. We will have a truck on there, we will stone it in line the ditch. Otherwise, if we hire it out, it'll be.
so they're volunteering to take the expense to do some of the ditching. work.
Yes, that's correct.
But our group would do part of that project.
Our crew will make sure it's ditched properly per state statute. We will line it with the rocks and we will seed it afterwards.
Is this part of the MFRPT program?
No, I don't know that. No, I don't believe it is, because I'd have to put it out for bid and do it. But our crew will oversee the project. So they will do the ditching
And do some of the work.
and do some of the work. Yes, that's correct.
This is a slope. So do we know where it was on our priority to address the issues by 20? I predicted it's actually your supposed to get it done. Okay.
It's, the road washes out twice a year at least.
Yeah.
Bill says, so we have to go up there and sort of rebuild the road twice a year.
What's the reason not to do this? And then precedent is an issue.
Okay, well, that's an issue, but if you issue the, was it the 1111 permit? And they have, because of whatever the state statute is for the permit to allow people to work on our roads, they meet all the insurance requirements. Yeah, I mean, it may be worth a question to the town lawyer just to make sure that there's no risk to the town here.
That's a good observation.
Yeah, so assuming we issue a permit, in the state statute, they meet all the, insurance requirements. And our crew does part of the work as a lawyer, so if there's any issues there. I mean, the benefit is we get some work done for less cost.
Or less than what it would cost us.
Yeah, and we solve the problem that we have to keep fixing.
The other question is, if this is such a chronic issue, why haven't we fixed it in the past?
No, it's got to be between Sunny Beach farmhouse and Cape Acres.
It's
There's a
going-
huge,
It's going east, it's going east.
Yes.
that's
But part of it, like where the farm is into the shore, that's fairly flat. It's where it goes past the farm, it starts dropping down.
Right.
It washes out from Kitty Bacon's up to.
Washes out probably from where the barn is down.
So Tom, I can't answer your question factually, but we did have, based on work that, I don't know if it was Two Rivers or the state of Vermont, we had a list of high priority.
Yeah, I get that,
projects,
yeah.
Which I think we just recently. completed.
That's also
Right, yeah.
part of those roads that are hydraulic connected.
Correct.
And this is not hydraulic.
Right, so this probably wasn't on that priority list.
Memories, I mean, I ride my bike around there a lot of times, there's no streams near there.
Not even had a summer. Anyway.
Well, maybe on that side.
So when I'm riding my bike, there's only too fast down the hill and the breath going.
Well, you're much better rider. I see it.
Okay, do we sit on this until we check?
How about I get some more information on it? Is it
Is
okay?
this critical to do this
No,
right?
no. Is it okay if I get more information?
Yeah. I like the idea that I make sure that we speaking,
Is it okay? All right.
And I certainly appreciate the offer by Sunny to do this, I just am concerned about a precedent. And to me also, this is a town responsibility.
Okay. Phil and I met with Bill Emerson and Margaret Salon at the community garden to add a pollinator section, 7 feet. So if you look at the community garden, it's in the packet. We put in a picture of the community garden. And on the outside lip of it, it's 7. They want to add 7 feet for the pollinator garden. It's not a big section. So they're gonna do a little bit of digging and they're gonna have it set up and they're hoping to get more butterflies and some more bees and. So they will be working on that this, over the next month.
we talked about the educational aspect of it. The letter highlights that they will also keep materials in the library for the general public. And we're aware that there's some programs using the town oven. And Margaret would be interested in working with that crew on using herbs for baking various things. So I thought there was some nice dovetailing with various things.
TJP is gonna do our mowing again. He came in, signed the contract the other day.
So there's no action.
No,
It's just
no.
information.
Jeff, I'm just keeping you in the loop. You're welcome. Same thing with TJP, he has a contract for the upcoming mowing season, so. He came in at $1,610 every 2 weeks. I got a call, Rob texted me Tuesday morning last week that the North Hartland School had 7 broken windows. I contacted, I shouldn't say that, Joe contacted Claremont Glassworks, they're coming out Wednesday at 2:30 to get an estimate on that. 2 energy committees have stepped down, if I remember correctly, so we have them on the website. So if anybody wants to join the energy committee. We're not moving forward with the lease of the North Hartland School. I have reached out to Mr. Thorburn and thank him for his time and apologize that we couldn't move forward with that. We have a contractor to fix the fence at the rec center. He wants half up front and halfway through the project. I gotta discuss that with him about the payment. I haven't seen his insurance paperwork yet, so it has not started. The landowner asked us if we can move the fence off his property so the grass wouldn't die. We have moved the fence off his property because it fell right onto the lawn. So we've moved the fence. I spoke to Rob Anderegg about the discussion for the open position for the Connecticut River Joint Commission, Mount Escutney region. He says for the main meeting, we should have there's 2 people vying for that position, so you'll have a better answer by that time for us. Our accountants will be here on April 25th, 26th, 27th for the subrecipient audit. The 3 Corners project, I put a schedule in your packet, start to finish. They're supposed to have weekly meetings and updates as the project's going to make sure it starts out properly. And that is all I have for tonight's information.
Will you keep us abreast of when the abutters meetings are?
I emailed Rita, she was on vacation last week. I asked her if it was not a huge priority since it was her first day back, but please get a hold of me and let me know what's going on. And we will put this schedule on the website tomorrow.
Correspondence, there are a few letters in the packet to Senator Peter Welsh in support of the congressionally directed spending that we put to his office on, I would have to look about 4 Fridays ago. I happened to see the senator this last week or the week before at a poetry reading up in Norwich, and I was quite surprised that he had actually read the correspondence for us. So he knew I put that little piece in, and he practices basketball skills on the Hartland Recreation Court, and he should give us money to. And thank you to Tom and Peter Gregory for meeting with the delegation when you were in Washington. Is there any other correspondence that we need to take?
That was it.
Okay. We have future agenda items, capital program plan, an update of the personnel policy, set a schedule for the commission and committee updates, and a motion to distribute monies from the high-risk surplus to cover any overage for the 3 Corners project. Okay, we have an executive session this evening, so I need my colleagues to help with adjourn one or go to the other, or
Yes, so is the, we need to have a reason for the executive session.
personnel reasons.
Just discuss personnel issues.
Yes.
Okay.
I think I got the right.
Yeah, if you do, if that's the topic, then. That's,
Somebody want to read it off for the record?
sure, I'll make a motion.
Let's adjourn this meeting first.
No, I think we have to
Right, yeah.
So just for those in attendance, we'll move to executive session. We'll ask you to leave. We'll stop the recording. We will come back from executive session and officially adjourn this meeting. So I'll make a motion to move to executive session under 1 VSA 313A1F to discuss personnel issues.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.